We're live.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another show with In The Cypher, another episode. We got myself, one of the hosts, Kujo Brown.
I'm your other host, the bad guy. I got it right this week.
We are in The Cypher. Yo, thank you, folks, for being with us here with us today, May 5th, 2026, and it's about 9 o'clock on the Eastern Standard Time. So let's dive into it, man. We got a bunch of things to address. One of the things, let's address some geopolitical things that are going on, some shifts, some changes, some people shaking hands, some people not shaking hands anymore. You know what I mean? So let's dive into this. And one of the main things that we're going to dive into is oil. The biggest thing on the
hmm
topic right now, because as Americans, all people care about is how much gas prices are, much less people dying in Gaza. So we'll go right into that first.
Yeah,
So
well, my gas went up, I think like 30, no, about 40 cents today. When I left this morning, it was 4.19. By the time I came home from picking up my kid this afternoon, it was 4.59.
wow, this is not going to be, it's not going to get any better, bro.
No, this is as good as it will get for a while. The American oil companies are not going to take pity on us, right? Like a lot of people are, oh, well, we have so much oil that we drill. These are private companies. They're selling that oil on the open market. They're not going to have pity on us. We're not going to get some influx of oil from our own oil operations. They're still going to put that oil, all of it, on the open market, and we are going to get screwed even harder on the price.
And basically, what you're getting down to is the fact that we are not sheltered. We are not sheltered by any means at all by this fact that these companies are American or European or whatever, so have you.
Mm.
And I think
Well,
that's a hard,
If they're European, you can kiss that goodbye.
yeah, yeah. And that's a conversation that we have to even address a little bit too, which is we've burnt so many bridges because we've caused so much friction in the geopolitical scene that right now it's a scenario where you could look at things that are going on in Germany and Italy and France and Britain, and their gas prices are going up. They
hmm
used to get some of the gas from Russia, but now that's being pushed to the side and their prices are rising up. I don't know where specifically they're getting their gas now, but they may still be getting it. But I know the prices for gas for them
Oh
has
yeah,
risen as well, and it's been rising for some time. It's not
but
anything
they're
new.
already used to paying the full price of gas. That's another thing that we forget in this country is that our 259 gas is subsidized.
Yes,
My
it is.
459 gas today was subsidized.
It is. It is. There's so many alliances that have been made due to this current war in the Middle East, and one of them being the alliance with China. And China and Saudi Arabia have began using oil in yuan and using yuan dollars instead of using petrodollars,
The
US
UAE
dollars.
also.
Yes,
The
yes.
UAE just announced it. I think it was yesterday. That no, it must have been before that because the announcement said that May 1st they would start trading or accepting yuan for oil payments.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
a couple of
And that,
guys I heard on a podcast a few weeks ago kind of predicted this. Had a whole little talk about the petrodollar and everything.
yeah, I think what was that? Is that some guy, the bad guy?
Yeah,
Somebody?
that guy.
Yeah, I think I know that. I think
But
I know that.
in all seriousness, man, this is this is as good as it's going to get for a minute for our economy. I know we're talking about internationally, but all of that those chickens always come home to roost, right?
Of course, of
Gas
course.
prices go up. That's an international issue around the world.
Hmm.
We're such a big country that everything that you buy, everything that you purchase in this country at one point sat on a truck somewhere. And them
Exactly.
trucks don't run on fucking on happy thoughts.
Well, you also make the argument that it's not even just that. It's also, well, not just that. It's also the fact that, they're on ships that require oil to use as well.
hmm
Like you can't get around it. Like it's no getting around it.
The best is that our fertilizer comes
Hmm.
for the most part from the Middle East, uses lightweight natural gas, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's one fuel source there. Then it has to be shipped here. on a ship,
Correct.
like you just said. So that's another fuel source that's gone.
Yep. And these are different types of oil, by the way, people. There is the heavy oil that's really used for diesel and other things,
Hmm.
and then there's a lighter oil that's also used, and that's also used for our regular gas. But then we're not even considering the oil that's put into objects. We're
Yep.
not even talking about
Plastics.
pens, plastics. Yeah, we're not even getting into that dynamic yet. And that's a major aspect again for clothing, the ink and all this dyes. And I mean, we can go on. It's just a scenario that we have to take that into consideration in this aspect. I do think that all these aspects are going to be very important coming on later on down the line.
And then
You
we're
know,
not going to only pay more for our fuel, but now all the anybody can say you just want cheap products from China. No, I want to be able to afford shit again. That's what I want. I want to be, dude. I just spent $197 in the supermarket, and I really did not come home with that much. Most of what I bought was buy one get one.
I think most of Americans right now can completely agree with you. There's no escaping the fact that we're feeling it the most at the supermarket, just as much as we're
So
feeling at the gas station, I'd say.
I was talking to my wife about the supermarket, and I've noticed over the last month and a half that the not the environment, the aura, the vibe in the supermarket is a lot different. It seems a lot more one, it seems emptier.
Mm,
Supermarkets just seem emptier. Like people not that less people are shopping, but people are shopping less. And I know
mm,
that myself because I'm trying to stretch out times between when we go to the supermarket because dude, every trip is 100, $200,
and 200.
and that's easy. That's easy. If I really need to do shopping, it's really going to be more than
By the way, I've made an adjustment, and I've actually started going to. I go to Trader Joe's, but I also go. And by the way, that's not a plug on Trader Joe's, but I go there, but I also go to an Asian mart, like an Asian
that.
supermarket,
Ooh, we have one down here that well
and
actually
they're cheaper.
yes. So what I do, I think we've talked about this before. I go to this place called Sanwa, and most of the food trucks, a lot of the smaller restaurants, go there for their supplies. So I'll go and buy like a whole slab of New York strip steak.
Hmm.
I'll get the whole tenderloin and cut up my own filet mignons out of it. So it's way cheaper than buying it. It's way cheaper than buying it at the club stores like Sam's or BJ's.
I think by the way, that's an important thing I think we don't discuss enough. Like these, the Costco's, the BJ's, all these places, like they have been like, I don't know, Costco's still saving me a little bit because the paper and all that other stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they've been like a shining star for me sometimes because
Hell yeah.
I don't want to just purchase one thing and then pay almost as much as if I purchased in bulk. Like it's
Yep.
ridiculous, bro. Really ridiculous. And that's
Yeah,
one of the
when we
things.
go there, it really kind of hits home what the prices at the regular supermarket look like. Um, dude, and even Walmart. Walmart's prices have gone up, but
Mm.
the I guess the smaller, more local supermarkets, their prices are crazy right now,
Crazy,
dude.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. One place I don't go to, I try not to go to. Still go once in a while. Is Acme. Acme's expensive, bro. Up here, Acme is just it's
I don't
costly.
even think we have Acme down here.
Good for you.
Side note, we'll talk about this one day. There's a Wile E. Coyote versus Acme movie coming out.
No,
Dude,
yeah, I
and
heard
it's
about
not
it.
coming out from Disney.
Really?
Yeah. Disney made the movie, so there's another shell game because everything's a fucking is a money grab in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has this shell game where they'll produce these big budget movies and then never release them so that they can claim on their taxes that the entire production was lost.
Mm. And write it off.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than doing the creative, and this is where, by the way, this is where finance, and this is part of the reason, by the way, circling back to the economy as a whole, this is part of the reason why we're in the position we're in, is because capitalism doesn't allow certain aspects of growth in a society as far as infrastructure. where we should have quote unquote high speed rails, we should have renewable energy, we should be ahead of all the so-called first world countries. And I
But
say so.
capitalism should, by definition, capitalism should produce the things you're talking about. The problem is when you take capitalism and you bastardize it, right? When
I don't think so. I think this is exactly what capitalism is supposed to do.
I don't know that capitalism was made to have companies built to eat themselves. That's vulture capitalism, or you want to give it a
Yeah,
different name. But
yeah.
capitalism was the Ford Motor Company is one of the grandest capital endeavors in the history of man, and it still runs. It's not eating itself. When capitalists became venture capitalists and private venture capitalists, and started seeing value in stripping companies down and then selling it off for parts, that's where you get the kind of capitalism we're in today. That's where you get the reemergence of monopoly.
I think you may this has been going on for a long time, bro. Like, and when I say this, I mean that even the first iteration of capitalism, when it first started out, what happened was they went to an island that was empty, and this was, I believe, in the Middle East. Or no, 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 not in the Middle East. In the I forgot the sea. It's near Italy and all of that, but I
Caspian?
might have been there. But they were like, "Yo, it's very obvious that there's nobody here." So they were like, "Look, since there's nobody here, let's take the wood," because wood was so valuable at that time. So they went to that island, started taking the wood, and they realized they need more people. So they got more people for the wood, which were slaves. And then what did they do? They chopped and chopped and chopped until there was no more trees on the island. This is one of the first.
The East India Railroad Company went to India and they ramshackled the country and they ripped it down of resources, but they still built companies. That's my point. I get
Yeah,
what
but
you're saying. Capitalism is meant to draw value out of the land and give it to a small few people, but the engine is supposed to keep running. It's supposed to create another business to do that, to continue that. They've
I
given
don't
up on that.
I don't think so.
Why
I think
not?
the system historically from its origins has always eaten itself up. That's exactly what it does. It destroys literally itself. That's from its literal origin. That's all it does. Like what we've done because of,
The
we've
people
made
you're
it.
talking about, hold on, the people you're talking about that stripped that island down, went to the next island, stripped the next island down. Their company, their corporation, whatever it was, got bigger and bigger. The company went on, they just went somewhere else to strip it down. We
Yeah, but
don't do that. We're not even interested in that in this country anymore. We're taking companies that are good, that are running, not good, for man. I'm just saying that are in good running condition, and we're stripping them down because it's more valuable in pieces. That's not capitalism. That's not how capitalism is supposed to work.
I think it is,
It's
bro.
it's
It is.
definitionally it's not. It's not definitionally. If you look up the definition of capitalism, there's nothing in there about stripping down the companies that capitalism itself creates.
Yeah, but
I get
that's a
what you're
part
saying.
of
It's what
that's a
happens. Hold on.
yeah,
I
that's
get
the
what you're
part of
saying. It happens.
capitalism.
No, it's not. It's human. It's the human part of it. It's like communism. Communism wasn't designed to oppress the people of Russia the way it did under the USSR. But once you put that system in the hands of humans,
I
humans are
know
always going to find a way to fuck each other.
I know what you're saying, that people come in and people actually bastardize the system. However, this system itself was corrupt and not, it didn't have an actual structure to it that was cohesive for it to keep continuing. The only reason why it continued is because capitalists kept on finding other things to quote unquote, like basically utilize to make
Yes,
more
that's
money off of,
exactly.
right?
I
The
don't
problem
disagree with you. I'm
problem
a hundred
is
percent with you.
the problem is people are not factoring in that this is about greed and consumption of small few in order to subjugate the rest. And if you want to keep subjugating the rest, you have to make sure the rest are staying in their position, which means you can't give them everything that you have. You can't give them access to education, healthcare, all these other things to have them live longer and make them think for themselves. That's the thing that this system does. It's not written into it by like quote definition, but if you just follow the history of it, you'll see that it's been doing the same thing over and over again. This is just a natural progression. It's like it's not even like a snake eating its tail. It's just literally it's devouring itself on a whole nother level. But that's what's
But
supposed to happen.
that's my point. That's not supposed to happen. Nobody creates something to then tear it down. That doesn't make sense. You create a company so that it does business, whether the business you're doing is good for mankind or not. You create a company to do business. In this country, we're at the point where gotten we've started tearing businesses apart. Look what they've done with all these Hollywood studios. There's like what, 5 or 6 left. They've
Yeah.
merged them. They've sold it off for pieces. I think when the UBD sale goes through, they're going to split CNN off as a separate entity, right? So we've gone beyond the point of capitalist creation, and all it has left now is to eat itself. But that's because these people are only interested in easy, cheap money. They want to make the shareholders happy every quarter when they have to report.
That's capitalism, dude. Like you're hitting it on the head. I'm just telling you, like, bro, it's been doing that since its inception. This is standard protocol. Like it's bound to
That's
happen.
just it. That it's not. I don't believe that it's standard. I believe you that it's bound to happen, but it's not standard. It is not the way it is supposed to operate. It's when we get involved with it and we say, "Oh well, I can steal from Peter and Paul."
So let's say this, right? Let's take socialism, for instance. Socialism is supposed to work, it's supposed to be a system that is viable for all. But the problem with socialism is that there are greedy people at the top. However, these countries that have tried to be socialists, they've never been left by themselves to function. Instead, what ends up happening is governments come in, our government, other governments, and corrupt them. And once they corrupt them or basically buy off the quote unquote so-called elite of the countries, they then come in and then go, all right, like, see, socialism doesn't work. Can y'all see that now? No, it's because people came in and actually destroyed the foundation of it. And Cuba is a prime example. The
Yeah,
embargo on Cuba is a prime example. Capitalism, you can't say that there's been a situation where capitalism hasn't been allowed to grow and fester. It's been allowed to do whatever the fuck it wants to do
it's
and
yeah.
globally. And you could see the ramifications of it because why? Because they know the system is just a spin-off of slavery. It's a spin-off of all those things. So it's definitely bound to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Again, this is like old stuff. This is Capitalism and Slavery, like by Eric Williams. He wrote how they're intertwined. There's no escaping it, bro. Like it's been like that, unfortunately, for quite some time. This is again dealing with the and circling back around in the Cypher podcast, folks. We having a good debate tonight. Circling back around to the petrodollar, right? And the ramifications of capitalism and the fact that we have yet to really make changes in renewable energy. So we're left in a really difficult space. And that space now is what? We're caught in a rock on a hard place where these people that are oil manufacturers are they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine. I mean, the planet's going to be piece of shit based on this system, but this is a
Well,
part of
but no, no. See, here's the thing. I think that Donald Trump has done more for renewable energy across the world than any one person. You could have had a million fucking Greta Thunbergs. You could have had fucking Bernie Sanders and AOC cloned into every fucking Capitol building in this world, and they would not have done nearly as much as Trump has done by fucking the Strait of Hormuz.
oh yeah, yeah. I think one of the best situations that ever happened that gave people an idea of how our systems can actually get better or be better was COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
when COVID hit, people actually started to like really make a push to like stop using certain things. People weren't driving as much, they weren't going out as much. And I
Well,
thought
I
that was
think COVID made us realize that we don't need all of these things to survive.
correct. Correct.
What I think a lot of corporatists are upset about with COVID is that it made us realize you don't need us to be in these places all the time. Right? When we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't go
Mm-hmm.
into your offices, and you and I know remote work has been a possibility for at least 10
Decades.
years, like
Yeah.
large
Yeah.
scale, at least 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely.
But it took COVID and their companies possibly going bankrupt for them to say, oh, I'll play into your motif from earlier. Let's take the shackles off of the slaves and let them work from home so that we don't go fucking bankrupt.
Right. Right.
Dude, I
And
used
now,
to beg my boss, one of the MSPs I worked at in Queens, I had to drive out there. And I used to tell my boss, I was like, dude, I can start my day at the time I would leave to go to the office and get more done by the time I get to the office.
mm,
Right? But no, you got to come into the office. I promise you, that guy, the MSP he's running these days, he had his people working remote for COVID. He didn't shut down his company.
hell no, hell no. But I also think that the big role that COVID played also was that psychological aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you remember going on the train and how daunting it was to get on the train and make sure you get on the right train at the right time, obviously waking up, all these things
Yep.
took took a lot out of you during that time frame and made you
Yes.
realize like, dag, I don't really need to be in the office.
Yeah. It made you realize that your 8 hour workday is closer to 14.
Yeah. Like, and remember now, you're dealing with all the nonsense on the train that you have to, oh, you always get. You always get people that are like, you know, disrespectful, some bullshit going on, all of that. Like, there's always something that will fuel a situation. And people are now people now, or people during after COVID realize, like, dang, this so less tension. Like, I don't feel that stressed out. I don't have to worry about waking up at this time and all of that,
I
right?
tell you this, you're not wrong about that.
What's up?
The AI project that I'm working on, I sent you its readout of you based on our conversations, right?
Hmm.
For mine, it said literally this is what the I guess summary of our content for me. It said that since COVID, I've withdrawn from society.
Ugh. Your shit, you just pulled back. You just said, "Nah, I'm good." Say, "I'm good, y'all. I don't need to do this anymore. Right where I'm at is where I belong. This is where I belong."
Man, it's not
Ah,
wrong.
man.
It's not wrong. I have definitely become less of a social butterfly since COVID.
Right, right. But rightfully so, man. Like, look, ultimately, you're not gonna have a situation where you have peace in interacting
Mm-hmm.
with people in the office and people on the train that don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately, we're all dealing with some kind of trauma, some kind of issues, but we haven't been taught to basically handle them in a proper manner. So
Yeah. Yeah,
people
dude,
just,
getting on the
you know,
train, getting on the train is like getting on a New York City train, especially during rush hour, is like taking a ride through Bellevue Hospital in the 90s.
hell yeah, it's a social experiment to the fullest, bro, to the
Mm-hmm.
fullest. And again, circling back around, we have the technology to actually work remotely before that for at least a
Mm-hmm.
decade plus. And what happens? We don't utilize it. You know what I mean? And it's only
Until
until
the corporations need it.
yes, yes. And that's the part that's wow. You know, we now are taking a step back and looking at the technology that we could have had. And again, circling
Mm-hmm.
back around to the geopolitical shifts that are going on, and we're looking at the dollar. We know the dollar is losing, it's not gaining. More countries are utilizing their own. And to say the least, the numbers in regards to China's influence, by the way, and this is
Huh.
something that people should look at, China's cross border interbank payment system, the IPS, has shattered all time records in March 2026 as the petrodollar comes under fresh pressure. On a single day, the Swift Challenger processed a staggering 1.22 trillion yuan, roughly 178.5 billion US dollars across nearly 42,000 transactions. So this is just the beginning.
So
Like,
hold on. What you just read means companies are dumping US dollars into the, what do they call it? The cross border something system. People are
so this
using
is,
their SIPs,
yeah,
CIPS.
yeah, I
They're
was gonna say,
using, but that means that they're taking money. It says 178.5 billion in US dollars. So
yeah,
that means countries who would have been paying for their oil in American money to American associated businesses, maybe countries out in the Middle East, but countries that were doing business with us. They took that money and dumped it on the Chinese oil market.
yep,
That money's gone.
that
That
money's
money don't come
gone.
back to the
Money's
US.
gone. And the other thing too to think about, right, is there's another space where we didn't even deal with this, which was products, right?
Yeah,
These,
plastic products.
yeah, well, products and electrical products, right? Like,
Yep.
oh man, if you try, hey, for you gamers out there, if you're trying to buy a PS5, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Better hope your shit don't die.
Yeah, I don't know because they're running out
You're
and the
gonna have to
prices
buy
of,
some black market shit.
yeah, it's not looking good. I'm gonna tell you guys that now. If you didn't get it already, you may have a problem. You better check it out online and figure
Hmm.
it out because I'm telling you, prices for all electrical stuff is gonna go up. It is not gonna go down.
I think one of the countries that's starting to buy oil in Yuan is Japan, or they've threatened to.
I think you might be right on that. I have to double check. I know nations like India and Russia are increasingly using their own currencies for energy trade. That's one thing that's noticeable in these documentations, in the documentation.
Hmm.
And it's basically all this stuff, like you stated, is definitely putting us under. And the problem is, again, we should have been technologically advanced enough to be on renewable energy. There shouldn't be a scenario where we're struggling so much to try to
Hmm.
figure out a different way.
Fighting with ourselves over this. He's stopped several large scale renewable projects. He's taken funding out of a bunch of other renewable energy projects, and then he gets the entire freaking oil pipeline shut down.
It's utterly ridiculous, right?
And some jackass is listening to us right now say, "Yeah, this is what I voted for."
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this, and this is a sidebar, folks. This is somewhat separate from this. I watched a video, and we spoke about this earlier about black women that are conservative versus black women that are liberals, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Like hearing these women that are conservatives talk about the fact that they completely agree with everything Trump is doing and have no problem with what he's essentially enacting, snatching people off the street, etc. The whole nine yards is it's just amazing. And they're not even in they don't even understand or haven't even understood the ramifications of most of the stuff this guy does. Like it's like for real, like you don't think that most of this is going to cause an issue later on down the line? Like
But
I don't know.
these people aren't. They don't have a foresight, right? They just think about that immediate gratification. Oh, I'm tired of all these immigrants here. They see the immigrants getting dragged out of the country on TV. They're
Mhm.
happy. They don't realize. And dude, they just blamed Biden for Spirit Airlines.
Oh yeah, they blame
It's
Biden for
Biden's fault that Spirit Airlines went out of business.
they blame Biden for everything, bro. Like
Mind you, Spirit Airlines claims that it's the price of oil that forced them to do it now.
course, of course, they were pushed to the break, and
Hmm.
for people that are, and this is probably ahead of time, but Labor Day is going to be coming around the corner. People are going to be traveling. Man, oh man, the costs for
No,
you
I
folk.
think you might not see people traveling the way what I was describing to you about the supermarket earlier. I've
Hmm.
also noticed that in gas stations. Typically,
Interesting.
gas stations are jam packed. I went to get gas earlier. There was nobody in the gas station, and it's a gas station on at the cross of two very very busy streets. Empty
Dude,
gas stations.
dude, shit's
Gangster.
man. I tell you, man, game set. The game is set
Hmm.
right now. But this is, again, this leads into the conversation about how the geopolitical arena is shifting. And we spoke about this again earlier about, you know, us being brought to be like a third world country where if you're not at a certain financial bracket, life is really, really hard. You get what I'm saying?
And that bracket is getting smaller and smaller by the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Millionaires, billionaires. I mean, look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for me, I don't know about a bad guy. I don't need to be a billionaire. If I had like 2 or 3 mil, I'd be good. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like 2 or 3 mil.
Yeah, I don't need to be stinking rich.
Yeah.
I would like, I don't know that if I ever got a lump sum of money, I'd be comfortable enough to stop working.
I don't
If
think
I
I'd
was
want to.
making a lot of money, like, I had to say that what we're doing blows up and we start making a lot of money, I might retire young at that point. But if I were to
110.
just get like a lump sum of money, a couple of million, I would never, I wouldn't feel secure enough in that money being enough because then I'd be living off of it now. It's just, I've seen too many people come into money that, quote unquote, should have been something to retire on and wind up broke within a few years.
Yeah, blow it all. I'll tell you this. Here's and again, this is another side note. I know we going off on a little bit here, but like, share, subscribe in the Cypher podcast, folks. So I typed up in I think it was Copilot one time, and I typed up, show me an image of a white man making money. And what the image showed was a white man standing and money falling from the sky into his hands. Right? Right? Word up. And then I said, show me an image of a black man, African American, making money. And it showed an image of a guy sitting behind a computer typing. And I was like, oh, that's some shit right there.
Office slaves.
That's some shit. The fact that they did that, and I shouldn't be cussing here, pardon me, folks, but man, it made me realize, like, even in AI, the way the AI is conditioned and trained, I'm
Oh,
telling you,
AI is only going to output the sum of the inputs that it gets, right? So,
right?
yeah, I know you've told me about that before, and then over time, I've seen more stories and read about more incidents of it. But technology is typically trained on the the dominant group, right?
Yeah,
So,
people.
in this country, the dominant group is white people. So, our technology is trained to work favorably for them.
Correct, correct. And that's one big thing that I don't think is going to change, and we're going to have to take hold of it in some aspects. Again, for the time being, I do think people are going to have to pay attention to oil, pay attention to how much a barrel is costing. I think you should just look it up occasionally throughout the week or whatever, just on the global market.
Hmm.
If you can take the time out to understand that, then maybe you could plan and prep to make changes in your environment so that you don't get abused by this system. Because that's really what's happening now. The system is definitely abusing us,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we have to be ready for some change because there's going to be some shifts, and it's already happening. We just haven't felt the full ramifications of it yet. Now, you have anything?
See,
Go
I
ahead.
think I think the shift you're talking about, it's going to be rapid, but I think that low point, that bottom, is going to be bounced off of quickly. I don't mean it's going to go straight back up, right? But we're going to hit that low spot and it's going to be, back on the upshot. I really, the more and more the closer we get to the midterms, and I don't just mean on the national level, but the closer we get to the midterms, the further we get into Trump 2.0, the more and more I see non Republicans winning. I don't want to say Democrats, non
Mm,
Republicans winning, right? I'm reading an article over here about LA is about to elect their first, not their own, yeah, their own version of Mamdani. It's a female,
mm,
right?
that's going to
It's,
get interesting.
yeah, dude. I saw another, how do you call it? A poll where they were polling young Republicans, specifically polling young Republicans. JD Vance polled at 25%. Hold on.
Go
Do you
ahead. Go
think that's
ahead.
funny? Do you think that's funny? Combined, I think it was it combined. They described several generic Democratic candidates, but they were pretty much all leftists. AOC. Bernie. I forgot who the third one was, but that group got about 35% of the vote. So the leftists are ranking higher with young Republicans than the heir apparent.
That's wild. That's wild that
That's the
that's
world.
happening.
That's the world we're in. If
Yeah,
the Republicans feel like that, imagine what the Democrats are gonna. I think you're gonna see historic numbers, especially because they're going in so hard to try to gerrymander everything. I
yeah,
mean,
and
we just had
that's
the voting. The Voting Rights Act was essentially neutered.
let's switch gears into that right now. That's a great transition. Like, share, subscribe, folks, in the Cypher podcast. So you were saying, man, the Voting Rights Act basically kind of been demolished here. We're
Yeah,
we're looking at
yeah.
some
Gutted,
strange
gutted
things.
would gutted would be short selling what they did.
Mm,
So my understanding is what they've decided is that a majority minority district is essentially racist because Republicans don't have a chance of winning those districts, which is like piling three different things on to get to the fourth, right? It's
right,
a
right.
minority district, but they won't vote. But Republicans have more than a handful of black candidates that have run and won. I mean, we're probably going to have a black Republican governor down here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not that black Republicans can't get elected, it's that they don't seem to get elected when they're running in black districts.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the interesting things is the Representation Act. Because this was done by Reagan back in the day where he started hiring black people, but they were obviously black people that had quote unquote like very conservative right wing leaning perspectives. And this,
Thomas Sowell.
yeah, Thomas Sowell, your your typical group like that. There's a bunch of them out there. Even there's a guy, I forgot. Let me see if I got his name right. I think it's Thomas Matthews, Dr. Thomas Matthews. Back in
Mm,
the day, he actually worked with an Israeli, basically revolutionary. He was like trying to start like some kind of like race war at one point. This guy's
mm.
ridiculous. I think his name is Mayan. Here it is, Meyer Khan. And yeah, Rabbi Meir Khan,
Hmm.
Jewish Defense League.
Yeah,
So this
he's
dude,
one of the founding fathers of the IDF, I believe, right?
there you go. And this dude, Dr. Dr. Thomas Matthew and him joined together. And Thomas is, of course, one of those pick yourself up by the bootstraps, that whole ideology. And to me, like my perspective is when I hear black conservatives say that, my thought is it's one or two things. Well, could be three. One is they're getting a check. So they're saying what they got to say to get that check. Number two, they're going to get a check. And they know that if they
Hmm.
keep this talking points going, they're good. And the last and foremost thing I think is they're just flat out ignorant. They just don't know any better. So that's just what they do.
No,
Like,
I think you're selling a few of them at least short. Not every
well,
one of them is ignorant. Some of them are. I don't think Clarence Thomas is ignorant.
no, no, not at all.
Clarence
But
Thomas has intentionally been a piece of shit to his own people.
yeah, but the thing is with Clarence Thomas is that also this is getting into a little bit more of a space of psychology, which is he's experienced a large amount of trauma ever since he was young because people were calling him, "You're so black, you're blue." Like
Hmm.
there was insults hurled his way. And unfortunately, in our communities, due to colonization, racism, we all view people that are lighter as better. And back
Yeah.
then, when he was growing up, it was even worse. So he developed some kind of self hatred, and here it is on display. And I'm not making excuses for him, folks. I just understand the dynamics of that mentality, which is,
So he became Uncle Ruckus with a legal degree.
yeah, yeah. He got a lot of pain his way, and then finally he was just like, you know what? This is the direction I'm going to go, and I'm going to stay this way, and that's what it is. And he's been following that path pretty religiously, and it shows based on this Voting Rights Act that has just been
It's
gutted.
wild how Clarence Thomas is one of those pull yourself by your bootstrap motherfuckers, and he did not pull
No,
himself up by his own bootstraps.
no,
He was one. He's one of the primary examples of the good that voting rights, that the ability to receive an education, that affirmative action, that
Yeah.
D,
Yeah, that affirmative
right?
action was big for him, man. Affirmative
Uh huh.
action was very big for him.
And
100%.
you'll find if you look at a lot of these black conservatives, they benefited from programs that they now want to abolish because they've essentially bought the, I guess they've bought the idea that black people are lazy.
They haven't bought that. They're just trying to make some more money, man. I think a lot of them know that they're gonna try to make their bread.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
A
This
lot of
is
them.
like the one down here, Donaldson. He's a rep right now. He's in the House of Reps, but he is running for governor down here. Byron Donalds.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He had a record, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a crazy part. And
he got some affirmative action at the bench.
yeah, and the funny thing is, he was quoted as saying like,
Hmm.
we should come down harder on criminals and blah blah blah. And I'm like,
He specifically wanted to come down harder on people who were caught with marijuana, which
yo,
is what he was
he got
caught
caught
selling.
for. Yo, B, he can't make this shit up, man. You can't
Listen,
make this
listen.
up.
This man is running for governor in his primary against the person who his name is Byron, Byron.
Yeah, yeah.
James Fishback refers to him as by apostrophe ron. James Fishback has referred to him as a slave and then has
Mm,
turned around and said that it's not offensive because Byron Donalds isn't really an African American.
mm,
And he's still running for the seat in that party. You get what I'm saying?
man.
Like, do you have no pride in yourself, sir? Forget about my.
Nah. This is a clear-cut scenario of there's levels to this of like hands down, like of just straight ignorance, but
See,
it's but
you almost read my mind. You said hands, but nah, this would have been a hands up. Listen, I wouldn't have gotten elected for governor. They would have
right.
wound up arresting me. It's Florida. Maybe I can still get elected with a record. But if you would have in a debate or in a one-on-one situation called me a slave and then said that I don't have the right to be offended because I'm not really American,
You're not really
okay,
American.
I'm punching you in your mouth. Whatever. I'll take the charge. I got bail money.
Hold that. Hold that.
Yo.
So this goes back to the Voting Rights Act, folks. Like, share, subscribe in the Cypher podcast. We appreciate y'all. Again, Voting Rights Act, and this is how we're trying our best to like deal in these scenarios where right now they just set us back. They
Mm-hmm.
really set us back. And we have to really take a step back and say, what are we going to do about this? And I saw the Black Caucus, they got together, Hakeem Jeffries and all these other people, and it was just flat out ridiculous. I just was like, they didn't have anything to say. There was nothing important they could really do
Listen to
at
me. The
all.
best thing that could happen right now with what's going on with all this redistricting is that a lot of these people are a good example. I know you were talking about the Black Caucus, but one of our champions on the left, I'm saying that with the most sarcasm possible, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because of the redistricting down here, the district that she's going to be forced to run in, the black constituents in the district got together and told her, please don't run here.
Shit, shit, damn.
They're not
So,
saying that a Democrat can't win there. They're letting her know that she can't win there.
mm, mm, get your ass out of here.
Dude, take
So,
out the look.
go ahead, go ahead.
Maybe at the end of the day, Donald Trump winds up being one humongous enema for the United States.
Well, one of the things that I know that you know, a lot of people, a lot of people outside of America are saying, which is, hey, now we know we can't trust America. And again, we spoke about this prior, which is we are completely understanding now that they don't really have a democracy at all. They're not even capable of rising up and doing something, and this definitely is their right. It is cause for concern. But it's just wild seeing this progress and seeing how things are playing out and people are not actually really doing anything. They're not doing that much at all.
Mm-mm.
So with this,
Just whenever we get the weekly or monthly outrage.
yeah, yeah. So the timeline is bugged. So after Civil War, I'm just going to go over the timeline shortly, folks, just so you can hear. Please understand, I'm just scraping the surface. There's way more details and way more nuance than this. Justice Roberts has a lot to do with this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when I say a lot, I mean he
Yep.
has a lot to do with this. He's been actually, to put it in a better nutshell, it's not just Justice Roberts. It was another individual. It was William Renskin at U.S. Supreme Court that actually was pushing
Rehnquist.
against Rehnquist. Thank you. That was pushing against the Civil Rights Act,
Mm-hmm.
or the Voting Rights Act from the beginning. And they tried to push it back during, obviously, your good old friend, or our good old friend, Ronald Reagan. That's when they tried to
Ronnie
get rid
boy.
of it. They tried to get rid of it at that point in junction. That's when they were trying to get rid of it, and it didn't go through. So this has been a
Mm-hmm.
long time coming, where the person that was the clerk for William Rehnquist was Roberts. So Roberts has been having this in his mind and his bag for a long
Yeah.
time. And that's one thing
I
we
actually saw
go ahead.
something about some cases that he had worked too, where
Really?
he was essentially trying to tear down the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, yeah. This is going back a long time. He's been trying to do this for a very long time. And it's only now that this has come to fruition. But this is something I'll ask you, which is the vision of these people and the dedication that they have had to do what they're doing
Mm.
has to be looked at and understood. I mean, they're not playing the short game. They're playing the
No.
long game.
Yeah. And that, well, that's the thing that the left needs to understand, right? Is, we've talked about Obama plenty on this podcast.
Hmm.
There's only so much that can be done from the top. We need the local elections. You need to win the dog catcher. You need to win, the local office holder, so that you can then influence upward, right? Because influence downward, only, just like with trickle down economics,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
little makes it down,
yeah.
right? And what makes it down just sloughs off to the sides. If you've got control of the local government, you can actually decide how and when and what your state votes on.
Right.
And that's a lot more powerful than winning, a presidency every 4 years.
And I got to tell you, man, like the thing that I do notice, because I looked at and folks, I do this. I go to the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. I check it out, it's fascinating to me. But a lot of what I see and is mainly white people. I
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of white people, and unfortunately, it's not a scenario that I think that their representation is going to represent all of us. It's never been like that. And speaking to other people, I've found that this has been a common issue. It's been a common issue, and it's always been happening. Speaking to Dr. Taylor, actually, he's been telling me that that's always been an issue with the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Socialist Party, and
Well,
that
the
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 Communist Party was the one that actually recruited Black people more than any other party. Interesting.
the reason why you only get that short term allyship from them is because you might have that goal in common with them, but
Mm,
they're
mm,
always going to realize the fruit of that labor before us.
yeah.
And once they've got it, they don't care about you getting it anymore because they got it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if we held resources, if we had access to something that they was invaluable to, just so valuable to them, it's ridiculous, then we could have an equal exchange. But if they're just looking for our votes, once they get that, they're gone. They'll do what they have to do with the resources and allocate them as they see. But
Mm-hmm.
the other thing I wanted to ask you is, and this is something that I think is extremely important, is these people on the right, your William Rehnquist and your Rehnquist and your Justice Roberts, and also might I add the special guy that I just found about, another Roberts, Kevin Roberts, who was the head of the Heritage Foundation. that has a PhD in African American studies, folks, by the
Yes,
way.
you sent me. That was you that sent me that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
PhD
sir.
in the African American Studies, and then went on to use it to, was it right? Project 2025.
Exactly. Dismantle basically everything that we're seeing right now in front of us. Just incredible that this man has such a hatred for non-white people that he actually spent his almost so much of his lifetime. You're talking about a PhD in African American studies just so you can go and dismantle African American rights or any rights for anybody else for that matter. I think he's a case study and a half, to put it short. But I say all that to say that these two people, three people that we just mentioned, they actually spent time and energy and made sure that they were following step by step to execute their plan. But they ultimately had a vision.
Yeah,
And my question is, what vision does the left have?
none.
There you go. There you go.
Stop you right
Yeah.
there.
There
None.
you go. There you go. There you go, bruh.
It-
How does the left see the world? And you can't really come up with one solid thing because they don't have one solid thing. They don't have an idea of how they should see the world. They don't discuss what they would like to see happen in the future. What about healthcare? Yeah, we want healthcare, but we don't know blah 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 blah. What about quote unquote housing? How do we want housing to be done? How do we want public transportation to be handled? How do we want, like, all these things, and from a macro to a micro, how do we want that done? How do we want the state to utilize the tax dollars that we give it? Do we want it just to go towards building giving bills to, money towards big corporations so they can get a bypass and come
mm-hmm.
in? Or do we want that money to go to smaller industries and small businesses, mom and pop stuff that used to be heavy in New York City?
That
But
would be the ideal thing to do.
especially for New York City. I mean, we all know growing up how those little mom and pop stores, for everything from bodegas to like sneaker joints
All
to
disappear.
jackets. Like I remember going to LES and buying my first Bubble Goose, like all this stuff. Those places
Bro,
are not there like that anymore.
you wanna you so anybody from the Bronx, my time, or even honestly, up until recently, y'all should know what I'm talking about when I say this. Over by Southern Boulevard, there's a store called, I don't know what the name of the store is, but the guy in there is known as Jew Man. Dude, bro, you wanted to get leathers, you wanted to get bubble jackets, you wanted to look fly at all, dude shop had it. He's
Oh,
been there for like 40, 50 years,
wow.
and they're closing down.
Yeah, things done
And he's
changed.
40, 50 years in the hood. If
Yeah.
you people are from the Bronx, it was right under the 2 train. It was like, I think there was an apartment building next to it, and then Southern Boulevard, quote unquote Southern Boulevard, where all the stores are, is
Mm-hmm.
another train station down.
Right,
So
right.
it's, this place wasn't even in the mix. And I'm telling you, bro, if you needed to get fly in the Bronx, you could go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we saw the same. We see the same thing happen in Brooklyn, and it's
Hmm.
right on Fulton Ave, downtown Brooklyn, where Albee Square Mall used to be, and there now so many vacant lots, vacant
Didn't we talk about
retail spots.
Coliseum? Queens
Coliseum is gone
Coliseum's getting
too.
closed down. They
It's
are
getting
gone already, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's done for. So we see the impact of these things happening, and the question is, how can we actually have a vision, or we need to put together a vision of how we want things to look. We have to figure that out. It can't be a scenario where we're reactionary constantly. We too have to build a vision, and it has to be united in order to work towards the goal. The problem is with the left is that there's so much division about ideologies, everything from
Well, it's because everybody wants their own micro ideology recognized. And not just recognized, they want their micro ideology to dominate, right? And I'll take whatever flack I get for this, but I like using this as an example because it's a very clear illustration. You would assume that the entire LGBTQ plus community would be on board with each other. But
no,
if
they're
you
not.
go into that community, especially
No.
if you go in there politically, they're all fighting with each other,
Yep. Yep.
right? And I get that you've got this group and you've got that group, But if we could shut up about I don't like you and you don't like me, and we could take on the people who don't like us because of our common trait, maybe
Hmm.
we'll get something done.
Maybe we'll get something done. And that's a funny thing, right? You figure these groups of people that are so marginalized would get along, but the truth is, there's a power dynamic with people that are people that would be considered like gay men, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's another power dynamic between lesbians,
Yeah.
and then there's another issue that they both have with the trans community
Yeah.
and bisexuals. Like it's very conflicting, but this is a scenario that they need to hash out as well. But then even with the so-called heterosexual groups, it's like, okay, so when I introduce myself, do I have to introduce the fact that I'm a cis male? And like people don't understand how confusing that is to people from my generation and
Well,
some older
first of
ones.
all, if you want to introduce yourself like that, you're more than welcome to. I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying in a general sense, you're welcome to introduce yourself, adopt whatever pronouns you want to adopt. That's great. What you can't do is get upset when someone else doesn't want to play that game themselves. If you chose a pronoun, I will respect that. I'll call you whatever you want to be called, but don't expect me to have to play the same word game. I'm not going to introduce myself as XYZ just to please you.
Correct.
That's crazy. But this is the problem we have on the left, right?
Hmm.
I'm a vegan. Well, you're not a raw vegan, so you're not vegan enough, and now I can't vegan with you. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, confusion,
Y'all
confusion.
need to be like Puerto Ricans, bro. We don't have to get along with all these other Spanish speaking countries, and we do. We like y'all, and apparently they all like us too. We don't them differences, whatever, bro. Dominicans, we have problems with them, but we'll step up to bat for a Dominican, for El Salvadorian, for a Mexican. At the end of the day, we've got the same enemy.
Yeah, man. I think it's a tough scenario, but it's going to lead to way more confusion, and it's not going to stop because of that. And I think elders have to take control of the dialogue and change the conversation. That's the only way it's going to get better.
think I think the Democratic Party needs to stop playing that game. It's not a game you're going to win. There's always going to be division there, right?
Uh-huh.
And it will always be a hot button issue for the enemy. So maybe what Democrats need to do is, like you were saying, what you see is lacking in the DSA is come up with a vision for the future that everybody can glom onto, right? Universal living wage, right? Whatever
Hmm.
you could, if you gay, if you like fucking whatever your thing is, I don't care. We all
Right.
benefit from a universal minimum wage, right? We can all jump on board with that. Universal health care, we all benefit from that. Whether you
Right.
need to get your hormone suppressant pills or I need to get my fucking blood pressure pills, we all
Yep.
benefit from universal health care. We don't need to say that universal healthcare is going to be for this subgroup and that subgroup and that subgroup. Do it when we get it. You're welcome to subgroup the shit out of that shit, but we
Right.
don't need to run on it because the
Right.
moment we start subdividing ourselves, we're just giving the enemy more surface room to attack.
Correct. Once again, thank you folks for joining us in the Cypher podcast. Your co-host Kujo Brown,
Yeah, the co-host over here, the bad guy.
and we are in the Cypher. Again, folks, like, share, subscribe. Hopefully we can wrap up, get another conversation going next week or later on this week. We're gonna have some snippets for you guys in the near future just to keep things rolling and keep things smooth and keep you informed. Lock in, y'all. Peace.
Have a good one. Peace.